Good morning and welcome to another edition of Legal Access. We get together each and every Thursday at this time to give you access to different aspects of the law. Today we're going to be talking about automobile accidents. Unfortunately, a part of the law that a lot of people have been involved in one way or the other. So if you've been involved in an accident, you want to know what you should do, what you shouldn't do, today's the day to get those questions answered. Give us a call. The number's on your screen, 843-848-8080, as we talk about automobile accidents here today. On the panel to answer your questions for you from the McGuire Law Firm, first is Ian McGuire. Also from McGuire Law is Brittany Jones. And from the O'Neill Law Firm, we have Rick O'Neill.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
It's good to have you.
It's morning, actually. We changed times.
Yeah, I know. I'm still not used to that. Rick, it's good to have you back. Rick, as we talk about a lot when it's the auto shows, is that Rick started out before his law career in law enforcement, and he did a number of years, working as a
I was
local
on
police,
the DUI in the auto accident team.
Yeah,
At a local police department.
which is pretty neat. So when he became a lawyer, obviously, it made sense to defend people that were involved in not only injured in car accidents, but accused of DUIs, and he has a unique perspective of being on both sides of it. Right.
Right. I was also hurt on the job, so I've seen both sides of that too.
Yes, that's right. And so
Seen it all.
So the interesting story, but the year before Rick started law school, he had a serious wreck working in law enforcement where he had surgery on his shoulder, and that carried on. The recovery process actually carried on through your first year of law school, didn't it, if I remember?
Oh, all through law school.
Yeah.
Several surgeries.
So he certainly has empathy and understanding for those that have been involved in a workers' comp injury as well as an auto injury, which of course is our topic today. So
Right.
As Dave said, if you have any questions or any calls that you'd like to call us, give us a call at 843-848-8080. That's 843-848-8080. And the topic again is auto accidents. But if you want to call about a workers' comp case or an injury, either outside of work or at work, we can answer those too. And and Rick obviously is well up on DUI laws and criminal law. So any of those topics, really don't hesitate to give us a call at 843-848-8080. But again, we're going to be talking about, for the most part, auto accidents today.
Yeah, coincidentally, workers' comp is our topic next week. And if you have any questions about workers' comp, we do have a book on that, and that's available at the McGuire Law Firm. Just stop on by 1600 North Oak Street in Myrtle Beach and pick that up, or go online to McGuireLawFirm.com and you can download your own copy there. Plus, we also have, for automobile accidents, we have this book that is absolutely free, Common Mistakes Made by Accident Victims in South Carolina. Again, you can pick that up at the office, 1600 North Oak Street in Myrtle Beach, or you can go online to McGuireLawFirm.com and find out more. Now, a lot of people, if they've gotten into automobile accidents, will say, well, the insurance companies have already contacted me. It looks like I can handle this thing all by myself. What are they missing out on by not getting an attorney to be their spokesperson?
Yeah, well, you don't know what you don't know, right? And so if you're not an attorney, you're not going to know what to ask for, what to look for. And while the adjuster may have already reached out to you, might seem very friendly, very easy to work with, excuse me, they've got their own attorney just a phone call away. So you want to be equally prepared as the insurance company and their adjusters are by having your own counsel.
You know, the insurance adjusters, their main goal is to look for a reason to deny a claim or to minimize what they're paying out. And, they're looking to penny pinch on every part of a claim, whether it's property damage, the rental, or on the injury claim. So, they'll be very nice to you, try to disarm you with kindness, but, be aware that their loyalty is to the insurance company.
Yeah, and then like Brittany mentioned, that they have their lawyers. They all have the same purpose and job, and they could be wonderful people, which many of them are because we deal with them, but their interest is not to take care of the injured person. Their interest is to take care of the insurance company. If you're working for the insurance company, how are you going to get bonuses and raises and everything else that comes with the job is doing what's best to minimize costs and make money for the insurance company. It's not to make money for an injured person, and that's there's nothing wrong with that. And an injured person should have the opportunity to have someone that's going to zealously fight for them, just the same way that the insurance workers are going to be taking care of the insurance company. So it's really just a way to level the playing field, and by hiring a lawyer that
Yeah.
practices in that area, you should consider doing that, especially if you have a serious injury, right?
And there are different types of coverages that, the insurance adjuster is not going to just offer them up. So there are different types of coverages, different types of things that you can get reimbursed for, aside from just your medical bills or just, pain and suffering, which is kind of a more common, idea that people are used to. There are other things that you can get, repaid for, that if you don't know to ask for them, they're not going to mention them. They're not going to offer them, for all the reasons we've talked about.
Right.
I always say, sorry, Dave, but at the end of the day, the insurance company is going to tell you what they're going to give you. If you have a lawyer, then you're going to have the ability and the artillery to say no and take the case to trial if they're not being fair. So that's the way I look at it.
Along the same lines, if it's before an accident victim has contacted an attorney, if they have accepted money for property damage, damage to the vehicle, is that going to affect them going forward to get in any bodily injury settlement?
Shouldn't.
So the property damage settlement and your bodily injury settlement are going to be two separate things, handled usually by two separate adjusters even. So the property damage is something that gets handled very quickly, oftentimes, just out of necessity. But if you have already settled your property damage or accepted money for that, definitely still seek out the advice of an attorney, talk to somebody, because you certainly can still get, payment for your medical bills and compensated for other things. And there are lots of different parts of property damage that even, just because you settled maybe part of that, there might be other things there that are available to you that you won't know about without talking with an attorney.
And I would, sorry, Rick, I would really emphasize if you're going to be handling your property damage, wait. I know our law firm, I'm sure Rick, I think most law firms would be the same. We don't charge or take a fee on the property damage, but we have a woman in our office that all she does is handle property damage. She probably knows more about property damage than the lawyers at this point. And she really just concentrates on making sure that the people are properly compensated. So take advantage of that. If you're going to hire a law firm to do the personal injury, let them handle the property damage, because they probably are going to be more familiar with it than you're going to be. And like I said, in our firm, and I think in hopefully most firms, they don't charge to help and take a percentage on the property damage, just on the personal injury.
What I was going to add is on the property damage too, is in South Carolina, sometimes you can get what's left over after your car's been repaired or totaled out. There's still coverage left under that property damage, and you don't want to sign away your rights to possibly get that extra coverage that's left over if there's not enough money on the bodily injury. And that's something that certain insurance companies are real quick to try to get you to sign a full release on property damage, which you could be walking away from several $1,000s in coverage.
That's such a great point. And people say, well, property damage, we just said that's separate, and it is. But there are exceptions to everything with the law, right? And if you have a punitive type case where there's or there's gross negligence, there's situations where the insurance company will pay out from the property damage pot, so to speak. And I think, Rick, that's a fantastic point to bring out, and just another reason to just tread carefully, especially if you have a serious injuries or serious property damage.
Now, as you probably heard here on WMBF News, we got some iffy weather this weekend that might affect some people's driving habits. We'll talk about that and some other things, including taking your phone calls. Automobile accidents, that's our topic here today on Legal Access, brought to you by the McGuire Law Firm. Welcome back to Legal Access as we're talking about automobile accidents here today. Our panel answering your questions from the McGuire Law Firm, Ian McGuire, also from McGuire Law, Brittany Jones, and Rick O'Neill from the O'Neill Law Firm. We're very well equipped to answer all of your questions. Phone number is on your screen. Before we went to break there, I mentioned that, yeah, obviously we've got some iffy weather this weekend. If it does get snowy or icy this weekend and people are out on the roads, does that affect, obviously it affects how people drive and people's ability to stay safe, but if you get into an accident, can you blame, the weather or the weather gods, or?
I mean, generally, I don't even like using the word auto accident because I think 99% of the time it was bad decisions, it was negligence, it was carelessness. But there are certain cases where that may be a defense, like an act of God. But generally in ice and snow, it's going to be driving too fast for conditions. Mm-hmm. But it reaches a point sometimes if the roads are too dangerous, it's just inherently dangerous. It's negligent to even go out and drive on the roads if they're in that type of a condition.
Right. And then if you cause an injury or an accident, what we call I'm with you, Rick. I sort of, collision, for the most part, took accident out of the vernacular. But the collision, it's probably a weak argument because it's like if rain causes it to be slick, well then you're supposed to slow down, right, and drive a little slower in the bad conditions. So every case has its uniqueness, right? So you don't want to say that there's not a defense, but generally I agree with Rick that you understand the conditions that you set out in, and even if you didn't set out and they got bad when you're out there, then you still have a duty to drive carefully and more carefully and slow down and all that.
Along the same lines, if you're found at fault, whether it's because of icy roads or just negligence or whatever, if you're at fault according to the police report, is that pretty much the end of your case, or can you move forward?
No, that doesn't have to be the end of your case. Certainly the police report is one thing that gets looked at, but it's not the final word on that. Even insurance companies are going to take a look at the accident report but make their own determination about fault, and they may agree with the accident report and they may not. And then, of course, more importantly, if and when you get to trial, the accident report is not something that's coming in as evidence at trial. Most of the time the police officer's not sitting there to not actually see it. It's written, made based on reports and information that they gather at the scene. So it's definitely not the end. It is one thing, and it's certainly something that does get taken into consideration a lot, especially early on in a case, but it's not the end.
Automobile accidents, that's our topic here today. Give us a call. The number's on your screen, 843-848-8080. Along the same lines, as far as accidents are concerned, a lot of people have experienced hit and runs where people would be hit, hurt, and then the offending party takes off. They're not able to get any information like license plates or something like that. How do you proceed with the case where the at-fault driver has fled the scene and you don't know who it is?
Well, number one, if there has to be either property damage to your car or there has to be an independent witness, like if someone ran you off the road or something like that. But generally, your own insurance company is then going to kick in under the uninsured motorist coverage and stand in the shoes of the hit and run driver. So you still have a valid claim you can make up to your own policy limits. You do definitely have to report that to the local police immediately and cooperate with them in their investigation.
Yeah, that's a huge point that Rick just made is if you don't hire an attorney right away, make sure that you have reported it and be specific about what happened and make sure there's a record of it.
There are lots of ways that they track down these drivers nowadays. Yes. There's so many traffic cams and so many different businesses and things have camera footage, and even if you're lucky and someone stops, a lot of people have their own dash cams, where you might be able to get information from that. So, reporting it is important because that's how you're going to be able to potentially preserve some of that information.
And dash cams should be there for a long time. But the cameras in the streets, you want to get to a lawyer pretty quickly. Sometimes it doesn't matter. So if you're hit from behind, do you really need a video of it? Probably not. But in a case where somebody left the scene, as we're talking about, it would be very helpful. So those are the type of cases where you want to sit down with an attorney. It's probably like within 24 hours of after the incident happened, or at least contact an attorney.
Yeah, sometimes in those cases, the law is going to require you to get an affidavit from the eyewitness. And, especially in a place like Myrtle Beach, people are on vacation or they're transient. So that's also maybe important, where you need to get a lawyer to properly draft an affidavit and get that out to a witness and have them sign it, notarize it, just to go forward with your claim.
Right.
And Brittany, I'll give you a chance to get on your soapbox to talk about insurance information as far as UIM, uninsured motorists, is concerned. If you get a client that says, I don't want you to contact my insurance company whatsoever because I don't want my rates to go up,
Yeah.
what are they missing out on if they don't contact their own insurance?
That happens. Yeah.
It does happen. It happens more than I like, because I don't like it to ever happen. But you're exactly right, Dave. We have different types of coverages here in South Carolina. One of those that is an optional coverage, but really everyone should have it, is what's called UIM, or underinsured coverage. And so what that is if you are injured, somebody else is at fault, they hit you, you're injured, and your medical bills exceed the coverage that they have on their policy, then your UIM kicks in. So it's a way that you can protect yourself. So if you find yourself in that situation, most people, very commonly, people have South Carolina minimum limits, which is $25,000. Well, $25,000 if you've got serious injuries, or even if they're not, catastrophic injuries, but if you've had to go to the emergency room, $25,000 is gone like that. And so if that $25,000 is not enough to pay all of your medical bills, you want to use your UIM coverage if you've got it, because this is the exact reason why you have it. This is the exact scenario that it contemplates. And also your premiums shouldn't go up if you were not at fault. Just because you've used your coverage, they should not increase just for that reason. So that's a coverage that everyone should have, and if you have it, you should use it.
Right. There's no point in
Otherwise,
getting that
yeah.
coverage and then not using it. It's exactly what it's for. Yet
Right.
people are like hesitant. So we can't say enough how important it is. And even sometimes your meds aren't high. You might have the other side might have 25,000. You say, oh, my meds are 10,000. But it's affected your life in ways where your quality of life, for whatever reason, is affected. Your harms and losses, your damages may be well in excess of that 25,000, and you have UIM to help offset that. So,
And honestly, if they are willing to pay anything, if your UIM coverage is willing to pay, it might not be a huge amount, but if they're willing to cover maybe you have lost wages, or something that's not even a huge amount, but if they're willing to pay anything, then that's you recouping your premiums that you've been paying for months and months or years and
Yes.
years.
Yeah.
To have this coverage, you're finally getting some of that money back. So
and always
you
get
should
that
use
coverage.
It. Yes.
Get that coverage and use it when you need to use
Absolutely.
it.
Even if you have health insurance coverage, a lot of people don't realize they're going to be there with their handout wanting a reimbursement of some amount of what they paid out. You're also going to have deductibles. So you need as much coverage as you can. One day, 3 hours in the hospital
Yeah.
as a trauma patient, that 25,000 is gone.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Tell you what, we got just under 10 minutes for you to get a call in. If you have any questions about automobile accidents, today is the day to get those questions answered. Don't hesitate, give us a call. The number's on your screen, 848-8080. Call us today right here on Legal Access, brought to you by the McGuire Law Firm. It's Legal Access, brought to you by the McGuire Law Firm. Today's topic, automobile accidents. If you have any questions as to what you should do and shouldn't do during an accident or after an accident, today's the day to give us a call. The number's on your screen, 843-848-8080. Not all accidents happen on streets and highways. What's the difficulties of accidents that cause injuries if it's in a parking lot, per se?
Well, generally, if there's an injury, an obvious injury, the police are supposed to come take a report of it, regardless public or private. If it's just minor property damage and there's no hit and run or something like that, it's optional. Generally, what the police are going to come and give you a form and have the drivers exchange information, exchange insurance, and then go from there and just let the parties handle it without an official report. There is a form that you can file with the DMV yourself, a citizen accident report. If a police report was not made timely, that's another option.
You know, and I hear oftentimes, especially with parking lot type accidents, say, oh, well, the police were just going to give us the exchange information paper, so, you know, we could just do that ourselves. No, don't do it yourself. Still call the police. Still have them come out there. Let them give you the piece of paper. Let them make sure that the people have the right information and that you get all the information from the other person is always a better idea.
Still got a few minutes left, so give us a call if you have any questions about automobile accidents. You got John in Myrtle Beach on the line for us now. Hey, John, thanks for giving us a call. What's your question today?
My question is, you guys just mentioned an addition to auto insurance covering medical bills. Well, what was that term you guys used?
Yeah, so it's UIM, or underinsurance, and that's the optional coverage that everyone should have. It's called there's UM and then there's UIM, so the optional one has the I, or it's called underinsurance. Another one that's great to have and that everyone should have is called MedPay, and that is another optional coverage that goes to pay your medical bills, kind of without many questions
fault,
asked.
yeah.
No fault. It goes just directly to pay your medical bills. Usually it's a smaller coverage. You might have $5,000 or maybe $10,000 in MedPay coverage, but as soon as you get a medical bill, you submit that to the insurance company, and they're going to cut a check for the exact amount of that medical bill.
And that's
from that
great
MedPay
early in a case, because
Yes.
sometimes, until a case settles or it goes to court, it could be a lot of time goes by. But what the MedPay will help do is it'll get you some money early on that could help pay, even if you have insurance, it could pay the deductibles
Yeah.
and just like
help those
out-of-pocket expenses early on. So I think that's a great thing to have. Ask about MedPay as well. Yeah, and you usually could go, in South Carolina, it usually seems to be anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000. In other states, they're much higher amounts that you can get. So, but you should ask about that because it's helpful to have that on your policy as well.
Another tip on auto insurance is try to put all the policies on one group family policy instead of having a one car with this insurance and then a kid's car and that. You can sometimes stack the coverages on multiple vehicles. So not only is it cheaper and more economical, it also may give you sometimes a lot more coverage if all those vehicles in the household are on one policy, under one policy number.
John, hopefully that helps you out. Thanks for the call. I appreciate that. Pedestrians, I mean, if you're hit as a pedestrian and you're crossing the street outside of a crosswalk, or if you're walking with traffic instead of against traffic, a lot of times you'll be found at fault. I mean, should it be that way, or I mean, do you still have a case if you've been hit by a vehicle and you're out of a crosswalk?
I'll let you, but you always go to an attorney, and don't worry about what the police report says in a case like that, because there's so many intangibles and issues that need to be looked at. Sorry, Brittany, go ahead.
Oh, no, you're fine. Yeah, I'll just echo what Ian said. Absolutely, even if you're marked at fault, even if you were or were not in the crosswalk, walking against or with the traffic, it doesn't matter. If you are a pedestrian and you get hit by a vehicle, you need to go see an attorney right away, because you definitely do have a claim. And not only that, but if you do have that UIM coverage that we've been talking about, it's possible that you could stack that coverage as well.
All right, thanks for watching today as we've been talking about automobile accidents. Remember, personal injury attorneys work on a contingency, so consultations are free as far as automobile accidents are concerned, so don't hesitate to pick up the phone and call someone. And remember, a free book is available at the McGuire Law Firm, 1600 North Oak Street in Myrtle Beach, or you can go online to McGuireLawFirm.com to find out what you should and shouldn't do if you're in an automobile accident. All right, next week when we get together, workers' comp is going to be our topic. We'll see you then. Workers' compensation next week, right here on Legal Access.
You may wish to consult a lawyer to obtain case-specific legal advice. Information regarding lawyers can be located online or by contacting the South Carolina Bar Lawyer Referral Service, toll-free at 1-800-868